Turn that music down.
Welcome to another edition of Inspired Discussions. They call me Sibley. Serving people is who I am, is what I do. And I'm with my co hosts.
Remy, realizing energy made me.
And as the YouTube audience sees, and for all our people that's listening, we got a special guest today. We got my brother, and I say my brother, he my cousin, but he closer to a brother than he is a cousin. Rodney Ferguson.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate y'all having me on. I like what y'all got going here, man. Look forward to this.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it too, and man, and like
Right.
I ain't gonna sit here and get into our history because that's gonna be seen with the chemistry that we're gonna have right off rip. So it's just the absolute pleasure to have you here because I know the value that you about to bring us. Because in our little pregame, 15 minutes before, it's already
Right.
like you
Right.
the podcast. That's what I'm loving it. So I'm excited.
I ain't
And
gonna lie, it kicked in smooth in the beginning. I was like, we okay, we with it. We got a smooth thing going on here. Okay.
I told you, man, I ain't gonna bring on nobody that's not gonna add his value and that's gonna interrupt any of this flow. Cause like I say, I got a vision and I ain't bringing nobody that don't align with that. And in saying that, the reason why I wanted to bring you on because like I was telling Remy, I wanted to bring you on because if it's one person, well, I listen to everybody, but it's just certain people that you got in your life that when they speak, you shutting the hell up, and you one of them. And a lot of the reason why because of that is because the places you done been, the rooms that you done been in, and just that level of exposure that you've been exposed to, is it's not a level of exposure that I've been exposed to. Like when I came down there to visit you, what it was like 3 years ago. That was an exposure visit for me because I wanted to see what it looked like to wake up every day, be running your own business, and just that day in and day out, day in and day out of just being your own boss or whatnot. So I was there soaking up that exposure, and I always talk to Remy about it all the time. It's all about that experience and that exposure. So
Yeah.
I guess just start off on just speaking just a little bit about your story and to sum it up. Just give the audience a little summation of you.
All right. Awesome, man. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan, man, and had some trouble while I was there. And my mom ended up sending me to my dad, who was in the Air Force in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was a hell of a culture shock for me. But it was something that was needed due to some of the things that I was getting into. But uh, to keep it kind of pushing and moving forward, my dad was a military man, awesome guy, helped me put my life under control and in the right direction. So ended up playing a little bit of high school football and you know went to college. Didn't think I was ever going to make it to college or even finish high school, but I was able to finish those two chapters of my life and excelling at those chapters of my life due to just the want to be something more than what I thought I was going to be, right? I kind of tie it back to one of the podcasts I've seen you guys have where it's like that roadblock that everybody says that they can't, this happened, that happened, I couldn't do it. That was never a thought in my mind that I couldn't do it. It was the circumstances that I was in. I believe that it wasn't for me, but everything out there that I wanted, I could have. And that's the attitude that I take towards everything. And as one of my running back coaches said, every run's not going to be a touchdown, but it could be. So in my life, I look at everything like that, right? Like everything could be a touchdown. One block could spring. You could miss this, they could miss that, but every time you can score, you touch that ball. So I kind of took that aspect into life and, like I said, excelled in football. at high school, college, and then I, made it to the NFL for a couple of years. Only made it to practice squad, which at this rate, I just found out that less than 2% of college football players make it. So I mean, I guess I was a little bit more elite than I believed in myself to be. And with that being said, I wish I would have known that then than to know it now, because I would have played a lot harder and believed a lot more than what I believe. So after doing that, and it was a hell of a shock for me to lose the game that I love, that I kind of based my life off of, and say, hey, now you got to be a real human being and get a job. So the closest thing to me to athletics was sales. I mean, I'm not going to let anybody beat me in anything if I have anything humanly possible to put toward it. So sales was another competition driven kind of basis for me. So I started working at Dell Computers for 5 years, man, and I excelled in that because of the refuse to lose type kind of attitude. And then I wanted to do, a bigger challenge, which was to own my own business and to take something from scratch and almost like raise a kid, right? It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a village and 3 more villages to raise businesses. I had 4 vape shops that I took and tried to make it, man, just tried to make it my own brand and my own thing. And it was a great learning experience. And this actual podcast is going to be on exposure. Well, the exposure was great, right? Not all exposure is good, but in this sense, exposure was great for me because it taught me so many different things from that perspective. And then after, kind of running my businesses for 2 years, I felt like it was a chance for me to, or I picked up enough on my journey through that to be able to get back into corporate America and kind of not be the boss. Because it being my first time, it was rough, it was hard, but, I did it. And I wanted to get back to where I wasn't making the decisions, but I was getting paid to make decisions based off of my experience. So, I went to a job at Ingram where I now currently work, and I work from home as a remote employee to manage everybody else's businesses for, to make sure this pandemic and this, situation that we're in, I'm able to make sure that, direct to consumers like yourselves or businesses are getting my customers' product in a timely manner, and, basically doing what I did in my business for them, but for a lot more money, right? So with that being said, that's a little bit about me. As you know, there's so many other caveats and intricacies that I could get into, but just as a high level overview of me, that's what my life looked like, and that's what I've been through, and that's a little bit about me.
Oh, dang. No.
What you got? Go ahead, because I seen you writing. Go ahead.
All right, so with the exposure, was exposure something natural, or was it something that you had to focus on and make a thing?
To be honest with you, there's one thing that my cousin does know. We don't need a lot of anything to be noticed. So we always been noticed. Somebody always watching, So the exposure piece was really just me networking through it the proper way, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if you feel it or if you've gone through it, but you could be in a club, you could be at the grocery store. I can always feel somebody watching me. I can always feel somebody like, he carries himself a lot differently. He's different. Right. I mean, if it be women, if it be children, like children just sitting in a buggy staring at you, like, what is around? Like, I got this aura around me, right? So the exposure piece was a little bit easier, but dealing with exposure is a lot harder than, especially when it's not warranted or it's not something that you're asking for and it's just happening. So it's a lot to digest that exposure when it's naturally given to you.
Okay. So it's not a switch that you can just cut on and off, or for people who feel like they cannot get any exposure. can they focus on having that switch to turn it on and off?
Oh, I would say 100%. I mean, but with exactly that, right? So you turning on that exposure, good exposure and bad exposure are exposure. So what exposure are you willing to take? And you can't just take the good and not the bad, right? Because I've seen the good and the bad exposure. So you have to take the good with the bad exposure, and that's what people have the problem with, right? When they try to create their own exposure, that exposure, they only want the good, and they like everybody want to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die. You know what I mean? Everybody want to be rich, but nobody wants to work.
That's facts. And I love that you touched on that, because when you were speaking about the whole business experience and the exposure, and you was like good or bad, like I really believe that you learn more in those bad experiences than you ever do with the successful ones. Like the
Man,
bad ones,
right.
because you like it's like we winners, so we don't like to lose, but we understand that it's part of the game. But when we do lose, we gonna make sure it's not gonna be for that reason again. So like just just those different like I didn't reach the point in my life where I know I'm gonna succeed, but I'm kind of, I don't want to say looking forward, because you know how I am about, just the all overall mental you bring about what you think about. But I guess
Right.
I can say like I embrace those down times, because I know like I didn't got through like the lowest of the lows. So I'm like, this obstacle is slight work. It's slight work. Period.
Yeah, and like you said, with the good and the bad, yeah, the good's good, but when the bad hits you, the bad is something that makes you question why. You don't ever question why when things are good. You always question why when things are bad, which means there's growth to be had. So, for example, my history, right? When I was in college, I was number one running back in my conference for 3 years running. I was just, I had great exposure, news, people signing babies' foreheads, whatever you want to call it, right? But the first time I messed up and was ineligible for our bowl game, I'd never been on ESPN in my life, but I was on ESPN that day, and the whole world was able to see what I messed up on, right? And I came back even more fierce the next year because of what I went through then, right? So you kind of got to go through fire to come out, different, and that's how they do clay pottery and all that stuff, right? So you got to go through a
Right.
kiln, burn up and burn up and burn up and burn up for you to look at look the best you look when you come out and polished, right? So I I feel like my cousin was saying, right? You got to go through those bad times. If you have never experienced a bad exposure or a bad situation, you're not as strong as you could be, right? And everybody always getting good. It's just like when they do get that bad, that's when they want to give up. But I've been through so much bad that the good is not doesn't phase me. The bad is what I, like you say, kind of look forward to because I want to get better. I have a drive. I'm compelled to be better than what I was. So I gotta break my muscles down to build them, and that's how you
Right.
get right. That's how working out works, right? You tear those muscles to pieces for your growth. So you can't just say, "Oh, I'm big today." You can't just blow them up like SpongeBob did, right? You got to work them and tear them to get them bigger.
Right. Okay. I know I'm frozen on the camera, but I want to ask this since it's in my head right now. With you acknowledging the more challenging moments or the negative moments, and you know that that's going to be a positive for you, is it more so the fact of you're more accepting of the challenges or seeking out the challenges, or is it you're mostly looking for the end result, knowing that you're going to be successful in that challenge because it's bringing a positive?
So I got to go back to your statement, and you said the negative. I wouldn't
Okay.
call it negative, right? I would call it an opportunity, right? So it's not negative that you
Mm,
go through things; it's an opportunity for you to get better, right? And it's all how you look at it. Um,
right.
that opportunity for me is to be the strongest I can be. And if you're complacent and you're okay with being just that guy, then you just be that guy. But I'm more looking for those opportunities to be better because there's nobody I'm in competition with ever except for myself, right? Because if I know if I do everything I'm supposed to do, you can't beat me, hands down. Because I'm going to fight and fall. I'm going to die before you beat me. So I'm in control of myself. I don't give up. I'm going to stop playing because I'm tired, because I'm facing myself, not because you beat me, right? So that opportunity, even when you're working out on a daily basis and you get tired, it's not a negative thing that you're tired. It's an opportunity for you to get more in shape. It's an opportunity for you to not have that happen again. So again, when you talk about that exposure, I would never call it a negative. You got your positives, and you got your strengths, and you got your opportunities, right? And those opportunities become strengths later if you continue to go through them, right?
Right. Dang, that this was all right. Remember that episode we did where I was like, there is no such thing as a negative?
Yeah, I was about to bring up the same thing. I'm like,
Bro,
he just more expounded on that.
right.
I most definitely picked that up. I most
Exactly.
definitely picked that up.
The
And
way you wrote that down there made me think about that.
just before I forget, because you mentioned about that time where you was ineligible for the bowl game. Like I remember, because that's my what my well, I think it was my second time in New Mexico. I only been twice, so yeah, it was my second time there. And I remember your name being mentioned on ESPN, and I was like, it was my first time. Was really like, I'm like, Cuz been doing this thing for the last 2 years, and he messed up one time, and now y'all want to give him play time. Like, so it was just like really my first, really like I guess you want to say, I guess I can say my first lesson. Like, no matter how many W's you put in on the board, you got somebody waiting on that one L to magnify it and make it and erase everything that you did. Erase everything that you did.
Man, one of my good buddies, Marshawn Lynch. If he ain't say it better than nobody, I have nothing to talk to you about. Because when you're gonna talk to me about the good, you're gonna talk to me about the bad, and you're gonna throw me under the bus. So I'm not gonna say nothing. I was told to sit here. You gonna answer my question? I was told to. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I see my name run across the ticker every hour on the hour, ineligible for bowl game for at least 2 months. And you know, at that point in time, right, you talk about those opportunities and you talk about those challenges. Is I could have easily entered the draft that year and just said, screw it, I don't owe nobody nothing. I made a mistake, I'm gonna go. But that would have been me giving up, right? That would have been me saying, I don't want to deal with college anymore. I don't want to deal with what I did to myself. So coming back that next year, I felt like I owed it to myself, and the people that I let down, like my family, that I can do this, right? So that was the fire that I went through. I lost all my friends. And he was there when it happened. Like nobody was hitting me up. We ended up winning the bowl game, all that stuff against Colin Kaepernick. It was one of the worst situations. I didn't have my starting job when I came back.
That was against Cap won it. That was against Nevada when I was there. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even
contemplating.
And that just to show y'all the love I got for him, because I still went. Everybody was telling me not to go. Like, he going down there to see him play and he ineligible. This, I'm like, I don't care about that. Like, I could have went to the bowl game. Well, I'm like, I'm with Cuz. Like, that stuff don't matter to me.
And that's when people rock with you, right? Because I lost a lot of friends that year. I lost a lot of people that I thought was friends. It showed me, like everybody always say, they kick you while you down type situation, right? But you ain't got to lay there and take them. You know what I mean? You can definitely move while you're on the ground. And while I was there, I was working my butt off to get myself back to where I needed to be from my mistakes, right? So that playing into that being an opportunity is like sometimes you'll never see these situations that are going to happen. It's how you deal with them after they happen. You can be as
Right.
proactive as you want in your life and do all these things, but something's going to happen. It's going to cause you to have to react. You ain't going to be proactive all day. You're going to be reactive in some situations, and how you handle those reactive decisions are going to tailor you as a person, as a man, as a baby. Shit, you go burn yourself when a dog bites you as a baby. Hey, I will not do what I did before, right? Because literally,
Right.
we, right. But if you go around petting all dogs that are nice, you gonna pet the wrong one day. You know what I mean? Are you doing things you're not supposed to do? So again, opportunities is the right way to look at it, and the challenges that come up just give you a better opportunity to make yourself stronger. So it, I'm kind of glad you brought me on for the exposure conversation, because what people think is that exposure is all good, and you know people can get into religion and say Jesus is all bad and all good, whatever. But there has
Yeah.
to be an equal amount of good and bad for you to truly outweigh or weigh your life and how strong you truly are.
Right. Now,
It's-
with what you were just saying, I was trying to apply myself as the example within that, and I'm like, I already know what my response would have been, especially if it felt like nobody was there with me and really just taking advantage of me when I was down or whatnot. I would have just cut everybody off and went harder and focusing on whatever it is that I do in the dungeon by myself.
Yeah, but see
But
that's
I don't think
right.
that would have been a good thing though.
It wouldn't, right? Because you had just as much as I had my issues, and I had that opportunity, right? What I was going to do when I came back: not talk to the press, not talk to the people who built me up to be the man that I was, and to all these people, right? So I couldn't shut off and not talk. I had to talk about the good. I had to talk about the bad. Hey, I made a mistake. I was ineligible, but I'm here now. I'm ready to do this right, and I'm moving on. You should too, right? You can continue to
Right.
fire me up and talk about what happened last year, but this year you're gonna see a different me. And when I came back my senior year, I was bigger, I was stronger, I was faster, and I had another opportunity. I broke my shoulder in the fourth game of the season and missed 2 games.
Dang.
You know what I mean? So like, it was more, it was more, or if I can come back from this, like I've lost all strength in my arm, lost all feeling, couldn't raise it. I've played the game, and we won the game with the 3 touchdowns I had with a dead arm. Came back 2 weeks
Wow.
later to play against the number 7 team in the nation, and they told me I wasn't going to be ready. But it's not about what they tell you; it's about what you can do and what strength you have. Right? I mean, I'm resilient.
Right.
I'm not going to let you beat me. And that comes from where we come from, where we was born, where we was raised, where it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. So to cop out was giving up, and copping out and giving up is not an option.
Hmm.
Hey, can we get your face and not this creepy clown picture?
I want to bag out, but it's like while y'all was talking, I was like, I don't want to miss nothing though. I want to just stay here. But all right, I'm gonna leave and come back.
Oh, oh, that's why he had to do it. Oh, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, I lost my chain of thought. Um, damn, I really lost my chain of thought with all of that. Let me
I
have
know. I know. I got a tendency to just run sometimes, man, and just keep it
I
moving,
was
because
about to.
I've been through so much that I have so many examples, so many situations, so many things that happen that it's like I could just talk for days, just crap that I've been through that made me who I am today. So we gonna
Now,
get it's gonna pop back in your mind, because
I know it is. It is. That's why I'm just gonna let keep talking, and it's because I know he got stuff for days over there. I'm kind of just figuring off the yard too and jumping in when I feel the need to, because I'm like you today, Remy. I'm student, so I'm doing a lot of listening. because a lot of this stuff, like I haven't heard him like talk about it in the way he talking about it. So it's like it's the first time I'm hearing it in this way. So I'm really absorbing it all in.
Right.
It's almost like
Now,
a TV show, right? Where they show you How to Get Away with Murder is one of my favorite TV shows, but they show you what happened 3 weeks before it happened, and then it's like, damn, that's why that happened, and that's the way it worked out. But like, you were there for me when it happened, but you didn't know my mind frame. You didn't know what I was going through, what I was thinking, and that plays on what we was talking about earlier, right? You have an overall understanding of what I went through, but you don't know what I went through in my mind, as to giving up, as to not wanting to continue, as to the people that you thought were your friends and the people that loved you just left you because of a mistake, right? Because they weren't going to get the exposure that they wanted from me being the man that I was, right? So at that rate, it's literally almost like putting a puzzle together years later after you found the rest of the pieces for you, because it's like you were there, and it wasn't my uh, you know I didn't want to tell you what I was thinking because of what it would have weighed on you about, right? I kept it the same. I kept a straight face, like we should, and how I fight that battle internally so that I can continue to grow. I mean, I was a role model for you, and you were a role model for me. I mean, you came down even when you knew things were messed up. Like, I don't know if I would have done the same for someone else, right? So it's like showing that untailored love for people, not knowing what they're going through especially in their lowest or times where they have an opportunity to grow. Sometimes just saying, "Hey, cuz I'm there," or "Hey, sister, I'm there." That in itself gives them probably enough to fight through it. And
does that create a level of expectation to other people's eyes that you got to live up to, or is that just also pressure that you got to deal with within yourself?
Both, both.
it's two factors. Yeah, it's twofold, right? So they know you're strong, so they don't feel like they need to say anything. But then sometimes they should say something, and you don't want them to say anything, right? So it's twofold. So they're going to hold you to a standard that, oh, he'll be all right, you know, just pray about it, that sort of thing. When they should really do their due diligence as a loved one or a friend or whatever to say, hey, even if you don't want to talk about it, I'm here for you. And when you are ready, I'm ready to talk about it. You know what I mean? So it does give you that two-way street to where it's good and it's bad, because you could lose out on a lot of people reaching out to you about, are you okay? Because they already know you're okay because of what you've been through before. But that doesn't alleviate the fact that this one could have been the breaking point, right? So
absolutely, and I absolutely relate to that and I had to check myself because with my whole dad situation, like I felt like certain people should have did more. I was like, damn, like I just lost my pops. Like, what the hell? Like this bottom, like where you at? Like, why I ain't heard from you? Like what's going on? But then I had to check myself. I'm like, this the expectations I didn't set for myself. I didn't set that standard. They may be thinking about me, but they know how strong-willed I am. They gonna know I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah, I figured it out. So it's like you flirt with a real fine line, and like you have to really self-assess and be like, hold on, let me pull it back here. This is the standard I set for myself. So I have to act accordingly and react to it in that manner.
So I got one for you. This is gonna kind of blow your mind though. So we call ourselves human beings, right? We call ourselves humans, and we're better than animals. Which is, say, for example, a dog, right? A dog is an animal. We're superior to them because we're a human being. But do you know dogs and animals have a sense of feeling that a certain sibling or daughter or pup, whatever, is not carrying what it needs to carry to be an adult, and they work on that animal, regardless on what precedence that pup or that child has set. That dog can feel that, and it either messes with them and bites them and bites them and makes them a little bit more tougher because it's missing that toughness. But as a human race, we can't even feel that unless you're in tune with that person, right? It's something that you really have to be good at to know. And that's coming from an animal, and we're supposed to be so much more sophisticated, right? And they do this on a daily basis to where they, prime and prim and teach their kids or their brothers or sisters how to hunt, how to do these things. But we set a precedence for ourselves that, oh, I can handle, and like you said, because losing your pops, right, uncle, or I can handle because I've been blasted on ESPN, this, and that, I can handle it. But you should know that it don't matter if they can handle it or not. You should still do your due diligence as a friend, as a family member, as whatever you are, to say, I'm here. Regardless on if you think they don't want to hear from you or not. He called me right off the rip, but I'm on call, leave me a voicemail just so you hear my voice to know I'm here. Not make an excuse. Oh, he didn't answer the phone. I really don't want to deal with this. It's mostly selfishness that doesn't allow people to reach out, not necessarily a precedence that you set, because that precedence doesn't matter. Like check on your strong friends, like they say. Like you should always check on your strong friends, regardless if you think they got it or not. If you see them carrying a heavy ass box, yeah, they could probably handle it, but you're gonna say, hey, you need some help with that. So again, taking it back to us being a sophisticated race or a sophisticated, people, human beings, right? Animals have it as easy as saying, she's missing something. I'm gonna have to make her do this, or I'm gonna bite her a little harder, or I'm gonna, scold her with a couple barks, whatever it may be. But that's why I say, and I still say to this day, if an ant walked up to me and started telling me some stuff about the sky, most people would be like, that's freaky, that's scary, I'm about to run. But I'm gonna sit there and listen, because if an ant started talking to me, that means he got something to say and I need to be listening. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't think like that.
Right.
I don't know if I was listening if he was talking about the sky because he never been there, but I get what you're saying.
he got a high level overview of what it is.
Literally.
Right.
But just
Right.
to go on your the level, that can be said with any animal. But I talk to Remy about this all the time. Like the human race, species, or whatever you want to call it, we just such superior to any living organism, but we don't act as such, and we don't tap into the things that make us that superior living organism. Because like you were saying with the ant is tapped into its strengths. Like an ant can live, what is it, 100 times its body weight. Like it's carrying around this little crumb. Do you understand? That's thousands of pounds compared to that ant. But it's tapped into its superior strength. It's and like you were saying with the dogs, that's the strength. They know how to bring value to themselves. Oh, you missing that? I got you on that. I got you on that, because that's what I do. And I love that you mentioned that, because I talk about it and mention it a lot, because I'm the type of person that I love people, but I cannot stand people. I love people, but I cannot stand people. And I used to think that it was just something I really needed counseling over, but it's real. It's how my personality made up. I can deal with people, but too much people overload. It's no. You starting to sound too ignorant.
Man, for real.
Now let's
right.
You gotta go. I need to isolate. I need to self quarantine, regrounding time.
That's for real. I feel the same way. Even when the different standards that I will hold within myself, my own morals and ethics and whatnot, with me knowing that I would act or do this in a certain way, when it comes down to those moments where and I feel like I'm at my bottom or I'm at my low, even though in my world and the way I'm perceiving it, this low moment is really going to present a positive for me at the end of the day, just because of what I'm acknowledging within myself. That also comes across like when I see somebody else not focusing on the same way I would respond if it was them. And I'm like, yo, like really, why you didn't do that? Like why you didn't come around and help or why you didn't speak up or whatever. And I end up distancing myself from people just because of the, how I built myself and the way I think. And I'm like, why you didn't do that at the end of the day? So
And
it could be family or friends.
I deal with the same.
Yeah.
And I say all the time, like how I deal with that, just right off rip, I go, everybody not built like me. I need to stop putting the expectations I got on myself and thinking everybody else gonna move like that. Cause I've been shown time after time that I'm one of a kind. Like not necessarily I don't want to say one of a kind because we all are one of a kind, but I just tick at a different TikTok, I guess. It's just different. It's just different from what people normalize, man. And I get way more peace now because I don't put expectations that I have on myself on other people. I let them show me what your expectations are, and I'm not gonna necessarily come down to it, but you make me aware of what they are so I can act accordingly. Like don't like because ain't that's the meme, don't introduce me to a vibe that you can't maintain. Like don't introduce me to a vibe that you can't maintain. Like if I'm here and you trying to come up, don't try to come up here with me. Stay where you need to be, and I'm gonna adjust accordingly. That don't mean I'm gonna come down there to you, but that mean I know when I'm in your presence, like I gotta react a certain way because if you try to come at me strong, joking and blah blah, you better have thin skin because that's the standard you setting, and that's how I'm about to come back at you. Because that's how I handle that all day, every day.
So I think about it like this too, and I have my opportunity with certain things like that is I try not to hold people to the standard that I live to or live at because certain things affect people differently. Like people I know are like, oh my God, man, I ain't got no money in the bank, and I can't do this and I can't do that, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I get upset that you're not doing anything about it. Have you ever lived out of your car? Have you ever had to just have nowhere to live? I have. I've come back from it twice. And you worried about this small thing, but I then have to check myself at that rate, right? Too, because everybody's not like me. And then also, I can't be mad at them because that might be their biggest struggle. That biggest struggle that they lost their job or that if I lost my job, that's not that big of a deal for me because I know I'm resourceful enough to get another one quick enough to not have to feel that hurt. But other people are like, this is the only job I've ever had. I've never been taught this. And that may be a mountain to them, but minus that being a molehill for me. So I'm working on myself to not just only not hold people to my standard, but be not even sympathetic, but be a little bit more understanding that everybody is built differently and their levels of being able to handle certain things are different. Because it's kind of twofold that I could be upset that they're worried about this. Like that's what you're worried about, bro. No, it doesn't matter. That's their own battle. That's their own opportunity that they have to fight. And it may be a molehill to me, but it could be a mountain to them. So being able to, give them, some kind of insight or, just say, I'm here is good enough. Because sometimes people just want you to listen. They don't want to answer.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I was about to mention the same as that the two things that you just mentioned. Either you just gotta just listen, or you gotta be like, hey, I know where you feeling like it's rock bottom, but I've been there twice, bro. Like and so like me telling you that is like I know it's possible to be for somebody to come back from it because I did. Not necessarily telling them that they're gonna come back from, because you don't know the effort somebody gonna put into towards their, them picking their own self up, because that's what it really takes. Like, you have to decide and make a choice. Like, I'm not about to be here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not about to be here, and by any means, I'm gonna be somewhere that's not here when it's all said and done. So yeah, I love that, because I take that same exact approach.
Yeah, and it's hard.
Now,
It's
does
hard
that create room?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was saying, go ahead. Oh, no, I was gonna say, in those moments, because I'm still applying myself to all of these situations and examples, and like I said, I know my initial natural reaction is I'm just gonna distance myself at the same time. But with what y'all are saying, does that also create a room of opportunity for me to really expose myself in helping them, just because of how I'm looking at things, even though I know I would help them in this situation, but just because I'm expecting them to do the same thing for me, it may just be the fact of they don't even know how, or they never even engaged in that moment to have that thought or to even act on that level. Should I present myself in that?
You can't expect them to say the right thing because you don't know what they've been through, unless you know what they've been through, right? They may not be able to speak on it. So at the end of the day, for them, the best thing is, if you've never been at that level of where you need that help, is to say, I'm here for you in any way that I can be, right? And you're a distancer, so am I. I'm an introvert all day, every day. Some people that I seen at our family reunion when they came to Nashville said, I ain't seen you in 15 years or spoke to you. And you ain't tried to either. So at the end of the day, being internal.
I was on MySpace. Hey, cuz, I need you, bro.
Yeah.
If you want to get connected with, I was on cuz helped me through a breakup through MySpace. Like, that was my only means of connecting with him. And he coached me through all of that. And I remember that message to this day because it sent me on a run of my life. It sent me on a run.
That's a different level.
And I'm talking about when it just came to females. I just to sum it up, it was like, cuz you gotta get on and get on down to keep it PG-13.
Yeah.
And boy, I went on the run of my life, and then I met Cherish, and then the rest history. So, but yeah,
right. I was curious how you was going in that. I was curious how you was going in that.
No, that was early. Because MySpace, you gotta think about time. MySpace was way back in the day. But no, he's right, man. And at that point in time, I've been there. So the exposure that I got to see is he may not have seen, and that, like, the reason why he calls me brother is because of the things we've been through, right? And the truths that I've exposed to him, and the truth that he's exposed to me about myself, even when he ain't had to say nothing, right? And then even when he did say something. So at the end of the day, like, to kind of help you with your opportunity, you can't expect too much from somebody, but that don't mean run into your own cave, right? That means you're strong enough, and you're strong enough to handle it. Don't expect it from them, but if they give it, definitely provide to them. Hey, I really appreciate what you did. You didn't have to, and go from there. My thing is, if I'm gonna go through something that I know somebody has experience with, and I'm struggling, I'm not gonna go back to the back cave and try to figure it out, because I'd rather learn through somebody's wisdom than have to. Well, I just started this to be this way in my older age. Is I'd rather somebody tell me who had experience and wisdom than experience myself, because at the end of the day, all it is listening, and listening is a true art to listening. I went through a seminar where uh, even in this, and I've been watching you guys, right? And it's funny because you guys are truly listening. There's an art to listening, and a lot of people don't do it. So a lot of people, when you're listening, I could say everything I'm saying to you right now, but you're thinking about things in your mind that are not about what I'm talking about, or you're writing something down, or you're multitasking. That now in this world, you are more valuable to people when you can multitask, but you're actually less valuable because you're not listening, right? So when you're listening, you have full, you're paying attention, and I'm a listener. Like I'm a true listener because I can tell you everything you said like that. I've always been that way because I'm listening to you. But a lot of people either going to interrupt you when you talk, they're going to be writing something, they're going to be thinking about something. But we were forced at one point in time to sit there and listen. And they said, I want you to listen to this person, have a conversation with them, look them directly in their eyes, and don't answer or say anything. Most awkward thing in the world to look at somebody while they're telling you something and you don't say anything, and they're looking for you to say something because that's how you have a conversation. So at the end of the time, it's like,
Right.
well, what do you remember by what they said? And they said, I don't know, because I was too busy thinking about what he was thinking because I wasn't responding. Well, you weren't listening, right? So the art to listening is
True.
truly putting everything aside and hearing, digesting, and being able to bring it back, right? And that's not what a lot of people do. A lot of people are going to try to jump in, or they're going to try to, do something else or text or do something like. Again, we're so
Yep.
valuable
Yep.
nowadays to being able to multitask, but we lost the whole meaning of listening and listening. And even when it comes to women or your relationship at work, if you truly listen, the person knows you're truly listening and they respect it a lot more and you catch a lot more, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like I seek out people sometimes when I'm having issues just to listen to what they could say and how I can apply it instead of going into the back cave thinking about the same things that I've always thought about that
Right.
got me here. I need
Yeah.
new information. I need new stuff to bounce off the wall or see if it's going to stick. So I talk to people who are influential, smart, who I mean it's not just book smart, who's been through stuff. I mean you can go down to the corner store and find a bum or a wino that you could talk to. You may not want to, but they'll tell you some shit that they've been through that'll change your life.
I was just about to say, I heard this one. We go into this exposure, and one of my mentors, a guy from online, he always used to say, even a homeless man is an expert on survival.
Yep.
Like you can learn more about survival from somebody that's homeless than you can that you interacting with every day, because that person is
True.
surviving
Hmm.
every single day. They figuring out how to survive. So I love that you said that because that's
And
so true.
once you take it to the next level, right? Are you surviving in life or are you living? Right? I want to live. I don't want to survive. Surviving to me is
Right.
barely getting through. I want to live. So, right, you can definitely,
Thrive. The better word is
yeah,
thriving. The better word is thriving. Are you surviving
exactly,
or are you thriving?
correct,
That's fact.
exactly.
And I want to thrive. You know that's my message. That's my whole thing. Like we was talking about it last week when I was talking about the private jets, the yachts, the planes and stuff. Like that's part of me wanting to thrive in life, and I just don't want to be average. Like it's just not a desire of me to be average. Like I feel this stuff within me, so it's like you telling me I can't have it. It's like you telling me I can't. Like I can't go out to the car and turn the key of the car that's mine, because that's how I think of the things that have yet manifested into my life. Like that is mine. Like it
Hmm.
has yet to become into the physical, but the fact that I desire it, you can't tell me I can't have
Yeah.
it. I know it's mine.
Right.
Right.
Right. And I know with when it comes down to levels of like you said, the desire, and that can even fall into levels of just having faith and still acknowledging people that have given you advice through whatever they've been through, no matter of how successful or not they have been. The wisdom that they can provide is through the fact that they went through it. Now, on the other side of that, I also think about certain people where they feel like they don't have anybody to talk to at the end of the day. So can they focus on who they are as a person, that their inner voice, that intuition, or does that inner voice come from who you are as a person, your own morals and ethics? Does that shift your own inner voice just because your morals and ethics aren't, what they're supposed to be?
I mean, you could say that. I mean, and when I hear people out, right, and somebody comes to me and talks to me, you have to put away your own feelings sometimes. And a lot of the reason why people do things like that is it's ego. It's what they believe, right? You cannot come from a judgmental perspective when you're trying to help somebody through their own struggles, right? You have to come from either a factual base or something you actually been through. You can't come to them with emotion. Emotion is just it's going to tear it apart because they're already emotional about the situation. You have to come from with facts.
It's going to cause more resistance because they're going to get combative. They already coming to you in a high emotional state. So it's like you can't add fire to fire and expect it's gonna go out. You got to be an equalizer when it comes to it. And like you said, you got to come with straight fact or draw, or if you like know the person more on a personal level, come with them with a nice little parallel. Like, remember that time when we was over here and you did this, and then I was like, you should have, you gotta bring that emotional level down a little bit before you get. Hey man, I done dealt with people because I don't know. I think it's just something with our family and just the way we made up. People come to us for shit. Like, and wanting to get off their thoughts and come through with problems and advice, and it's like, and I done dealt with like just so many different situations, and from those learning experiences, it's like, oh, I can't come at everybody the same way, because if you come in, you just causing more resistance, you ain't helped them. Like, you added to their problem at that point.
Right. Yep. That's 100% correct. So, I had one thing I was going to say that you just mentioned about people coming to you, but it'll come back to me.
Now, okay, last one. This is probably it ain't really my last one, but I'm gonna say this is my last one. In regards to giving people that advice, especially if you know that you can help them in that situation, is there a cutoff point?
Hell yeah. Oh. We done talked about this before, man. We done talked about this before on a previous podcast. Because hell yeah, it is, man. Because
even knowing that your advice is really helping them and you're seeing the change is
okay. Let me get here more context then. Like, if that's the case, absolutely, you keep on. If you're seeing progress, absolutely, you keep pouring into that person. But if they just keep, we talked about it before, they keep running into that wall, I'm gonna be like, have fun with that wall over there. And when you finally listen to me about how to get over that wall, I'll be there for you. But don't come back to me until you listen to me, until I show you. I keep telling you how not to run into it.
Right. No. I get that one. Yeah, no, I get that one. I get that one. Oh, no, but I just be getting irritated.
Because that's our job. That's our job. Like, here as mankind, just as this human, just period, just to pour into each other. You know what I mean? To pour in each other and help each other grow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the reason why I wanted to do the podcast, because it was a platform to pour into people and not being in the same room with them. They can go to a click of a button. We time this, like, so everything we talk about can be talked about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever. It's gonna be, because like we was talking last week, these universal laws have been the same since forever. Like they have been governed like the same. They have been the same forever. So all that stuff is timeless. Like so, like that's our job to pour into each one another, and that's like part of the problem that's going on now in our society. Like we, like as a whole, we too focused about this race here, that race there, when it should just be, we should be pouring in. I'm trying to watch the way I word this because it's it is it's all a lot of part of the systematic, racism that we got in society. But it's so much time, and that's why it's because we grew up with learning about all these other cultures and only pouring into one culture. They don't know shit about us. Like they don't know nothing about us outside of slavery, and we was once fucking slaves. Like that's the only thing that they know about us because we done spent so much time pouring into this Western civilization, pouring into one culture. If we spend more time, you know, actually sitting down in the room, like non-judgmental. Tell me why you
Right.
feel the way you feel. I tell you why I feel the way I feel, and we come to a middle ground, and we come to better understand because that's what it's boiled down to. That's where the hate comes from because it's been misinformed. They've been misinformed on our culture for years, and they lack understanding. And like we lack the understanding because we like shit. We like fuck us, so it's fuck you too. And it's not a progressive mindset and mentality. So it just all come about
Dang.
I mean,
being a
it
force.
came back. From it came from laziness, right? And the ability to control. I mean, let's just be real. A lot of people don't feel as though, let's say, man, I got to go clean that up. Some people are more like, I want that person cleaned up so I can sit here and be lazy, right? A lot of people ain't gonna go clean it up themselves. And if you think about it, all that comes
Right.
from is, like you said, the lack of knowledge. It comes from laziness, and it comes
So
from being more smart and intellectual to say, if I can make somebody do this based off of fear, and I ain't got to do it, and I make money, oh yeah, that's easy. That's a done deal. But
and
if you
that's
could
what it
also take
is.
it that next step, yeah, it's just fear. And at the end of the day, if you take that other step and say, after a while, you have people like what Nat Turner who said, "Wait a minute, that don't make no damn sense, right? We outnumber them 200 to 1. Why are we doing what they tell us to do? Like we're smart enough. We obviously run this whole thing, right? So it's really the lack of knowledge, fear on their side and ours, So it's really kind of level setting and saying, this is like you said, no judgment zone. Why do you feel this way? And half of the reason why, once you get to the bottom of it, is I don't know. I was taught that, and it was just bred into people, throughout
Exactly.
time. And that just becomes
So
ignorance because you took something somebody said without facts. You just took it because that's what they said.
But
So
like
that's
even though it's systematically in the system because if you look at definitions of white, pure, clean, then you go to black. Everything like Muhammad Ali said it years ago, timeless. These laws, this shit has been around. Blackmail, blackball, blacklist. Like anything that's associated with the color black is
right.
evil, dirty, dirt. It's like so. It's like it's oh man, it's we so far from being where we need to be because like I really do believe like I'm around. I believe this with the it just goes to that exposure. Me just being around different, I guess you can say Caucasians. I really believe it's this group of Caucasians that I'm around. They believe it's easier being black. Like they really believe that, and I'm like, okay, that's the ignorance. That's when I go to tell you when I think I might have mentioned it to you before. Like racism ain't a black people problem; it's a them problem. Like that's a them problem because it's something within them, like that got them feeling feeling the way they feel. Like yeah, we can carry ourselves in different lights in them, but even in that, like carrying yourself a certain way, that's the shit they put us Who said you had to be like that? They say you got to be in a suit and tie to look a certain type of way, to be accepted a certain type of way and whatnot. Like, that's cultural norms that they established, that they made those rules. Like, we've been playing by a rule book that really wasn't meant for our culture, because a lot of these things that like we look down upon as a culture is like that was made for that are things like that. I guess you can say that we shouldn't like to go like chains or whatnot. They've been flipped to like to be like stereotypes that's like a bad thing, and like that's not the case. It's, yeah, they have their place. All those possessions and the stuff, they have their place, and you're not supposed to put yourself over them, and you have to be able to release all of them and be okay with losing it all, because you understand everything was within. But man, it's just oh man, it's just,
So yeah, that's a conversation that can take all day. But I will say this, right? Though they say it's easier to be, um, you know, black, right? They say it's easier to be black than it is to be white. They would love to do this, whatever, right? But if you talk to somebody who's been in jail their whole life, it's easier to be in jail than it is to be out in the real world. You get 3 hot
Mm.
you know what I'm saying?
it boils down to exposure. They haven't been exposed in situations where they was like, where they haven't been in situations where they was with other black people, and because of their white privilege, it got them through a door. Like, they just haven't been exposed. But I digress if I get to talking and then get on another energy that I don't want to get on, because the ignorance of some is just so.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. All right, I already know I said I had a last question, but now this is my last question. This is my last question. So even with all of that, what we just said, acknowledging that, the understanding, the lack of them not being able to understand, knowing that they was taught this way, and still not seeking greater acknowledgement of how it became that way, whose court is the ball really in then? Is that on us or on them?
That's on them.
Especially if they're acknowledging all of those things, is it on us to present that or no?
It's so again in life, it's about what, owning your own learning. They used to say if you want to hide something from a black person, hide it in the book, right? If they don't
Yeah,
want to know, they'll never want to know, right? You can't go force it down. You can't force feed it to them. They're not going to listen. So you got to own your own learning, or they got to own their own learning to understand and have the awareness around. Okay, I want to know more. Why, right? But you can't force feed it to them. And that's what I think we've been trying to do, is force feed it to them, and they're like, I don't want to eat this shit, until they're ready to
yeah,
digest it and ready to really want to understand. Right now, that's an escape for them. It's not, oh, I don't know, and I don't know, so that's an excuse. But when you look at it and they say, like they say in the Bible, if they say, it's better to know, it's better to not know than to know and do nothing about it. So they're gonna play ignorant, and until it's in front of them and they have to learn it, right? So yeah, you can't force feed it
yeah,
at all.
And a great example of that right now is when Cap started this kneeling stuff, and the NFL was against it. They was, no, you gonna stand. He still don't have a job because of this day, but now they singing lift every voice before every game now, because somebody, like, they was forced to be like, look, we gotta start changing our tone. Like, we gonna start. It started hurting them in the pockets a little bit. Like,
You know
they
why?
seen what they was doing over here. They like, dang, these brothers over here, they shut it down for a day, threatening for the
But
rest of the year.
you know
So
why though, right? It's because we outnumber them 100 to 1. So at the end of the day, history repeated itself. We're gonna take money out of your pocket because we understand, everything about it. But at the end of the day, we outnumber them 100 to 1, and we're going to hurt them more from a. Now everybody's on board now. they may not do shit about it, but they on board, or they gonna make a statement that they on board because they could lose money, right? If Nike get behind Cap, and Nike is a big contributor into any sport, what you gonna do? You gonna mold and bend. You may at home dog cuss the shit out of people about what's going on, but you know how to keep your pockets lined. And I think about that. I mean, me living in the South, right? So I'm in Tennessee. I'm in Alabama. I'm in these places where this was prevalent, and you think about every school that's in the South, Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss. These are all heavy slave states that have the majority of black football players, and you have the most diehard Alabama Caucasian people out there rooting for this predominantly black team, and then they're the main ones saying that it's okay, right? No, because they be looked at that sport as people as still as slaves, right? You still running the ball and you still doing something that entertains them. So at the end of the day, they don't want to earn that learning. They want to keep it as they say, as history, as something that stays the same.
Yeah, once you get below that Bible Belt in the South, it get a little different.
Yeah, that Mason Dixon line is the real thing.
You said what now?
That Mason Dixon line is the real thing.
Absolutely, and I understood Nashville was on the border of it because I've probably been in Nashville. Probably been like just the southern state I've been to the most, and like you would go, and we went to Nashville at a time at the beginning of Trump mania. That's what I'm gonna call it, the beginning of Trump mania. So they were
Trump
real.
mania.
Yeah. At the beginning, they were real confident on who they were. And I got there thinking, like, man, I'm about to have to deal with somebody. And it was totally the opposite. They was loving, warming, accepting. I didn't get no type of dirty looks or nothing. I went below. Then maybe the year after, we into the deep the Trump mania. They really showing their face because he in there now. like he in there now. I'm in Texas, below the belt, and 3 fucking times. The first night I was in there, straight racially profiled, told that they won stepping no reservation, and they let the people in behind us without reservations. In the 7-Eleven, sitting to the side, waiting for my cousin to get the rest of his stuff. I'm sitting, I pay for my stuff. Are you gonna pay for that? I'm like, and I just look at her like, what you talking about? You need to go check your camera. Like, I'm waiting on my cousin. So like, it's a whole different ballgame once you get below that belt, boy. They get to showing like what you doing around here. Like, you not on
yeah. Seats taken.
In here too. Like, that's how they feel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah, man. So like just that different exposure. Like, it's just tie it back into the podcast. Just dealing with that different type of exposure, because I say it all the time. I used to think cops then racially profiled until I got racially profiled by one. It was
Yeah.
Like, hold on. Like, I mean, it goes back to what you were saying. Like, when you sitting down with somebody and they believe a certain thing, you can't tell them no other way. Because when I was sitting there trying to be told, cuz these cops, man, they ain't for us, this and that. I'm like, man, they ain't doing that. They here to protect and serve. They just doing their job. What was you doing? I'm like on some self-hate stuff. Like, what was you doing?
Right.
For them to do it like this? They ain't just gonna do it for no reason. Until I experienced and was exposed to it, I'm like, these motherfuckers ain't shit. just completely. So that's so yeah. I love that. Just how that just came back.
Oh yeah, we just went full circle on that one.
I did, and on that note, we're gonna cut the podcast off right here because we gave some extreme value. We didn't even went over our 1 hour a little bit until like an
Right,
hour
I'm sitting here looking like, oh dang, we doing overtime low key. I don't even feel like it.
You know how I am. I'm usually strict on the time, but when I get into a flow, I just be like, let's go until we
Right.
go. Yeah. You got
Well,
anything
what
leaving with us?
lasting statement?
Yeah. You got anything you want to leave them with?
I mean, I think we left it all out there. To be honest with you, right? It's everything, and I even want to go back and kind of watch what we done today to kind of make sure that if there's any kind of follow ups to the methods of the madness of certain people being exposed to certain things, right? It. I mean, I think you can find answers to every part of your life based off of your exposure to certain things, right? But if we always make sure that instead of it being a negative, right, it's an opportunity for you to grow and be better and understand and embrace the fact that the bad things or the opportunities that happen in your life are always going to be the things that make you stronger. If I told you good job your whole life, you'll never know what turmoil was or what hardship was, right? So look forward to those times where you fall down and you gotta force yourself to get up because you never know how strong you are until that happens. So I think, like you said, this was a great kind of full circle type situation where love it, love that adversity. Love. I'm not saying just go run out there and fail, right? But it's gonna happen, and when you do, look at it as something that's gonna make you stronger versus something that's just always happening to me.
Yeah, I don't even want to add nothing to that. I'm gonna get down with
I was gonna say the
touching
same thing. I'm like, we're gonna let the guests end the show on this one because I ain't about to come up after that and even try to add on to it. But man, it was our
I'm
pleasure,
good.
man, having you on today, man. You know how much I appreciate you coming
Back.
on, adding your value, man, and I'm gonna be real. Like I thought a couple times, like I think we got another person on our podcast because this boy, the chemistry, man, the chemistry, like is this type of chemistry is hard to. It's hard to
Create.
it's hard to create, but we most definitely want to have you back though.
Yeah,
It ain't got to be
Not.
me, but we most definitely want to have you back.
Yeah.
anytime,
Yeah.
man. Like I said, I got a multitude of situations that could, definitely. I mean, thought about writing a book, but I ain't trying to put all the secrets out there. But at the same time, right, there's a lot of
Right.
things that have been through and that you've been through, and that our different walks of life could teach certain people. And I mean, even if it be that I may be a different kind of person that's been exposed to something. Maybe that's gonna give some youngster a chance to say, "Dang, he went from this to this to this to this," and it gives them hope or it gives them something to strive for. So, I mean, like I said, I really appreciate it. I mean, y'all inspire me from just one conversation that I've seen before. So, yeah, I'm more than happy to be back whenever.
For
I
sure.
appreciate it.
That's love, always love. And Remy, you don't got nothing. To our
No.
audience,
Nope.
we love y'all. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. We holler at y'all next week. Let's create.
That's creative.